wedding is an exciting time, but it can also be a stressful time as you look for vendors. And I'm really excited that we have David England from David England Photography joining us again. And today is all about learning about where you start when you are newly engaged, you're planning this event, and you are selecting a photographer. Where should couples start? What are those 3 key things they should be really focused on to find the right fit? And it's really important.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, by the way. I really appreciate it. I'm super excited to just delve into what clients should look for when they're looking for their photographer. And I would say, for me, the number one thing is to do your homework. The average cost of a wedding photography package for clients is $4,000 nationwide.
Yep.
Now in Southern California, it's just shy of $3,700, but it's very important you go in eyes wide open.
Yeah.
Doing your homework is super important.
So let's break that down. When you say do your homework, what specifically should our couples be looking at? What is their homework in that?
Sure.
Break it down.
First is vetting your photographer. So a great place to start is the preferred vendor list at a venue. Now, I wouldn't say that that's your only place to go because the internet is full of information, but it's a great starting point. Go down the list, check reviews online through Yelp or Wedding Wire or The Knot, and see what other clients are saying about the person.
So we've vetted online. We've also looked at our venues. How do we know? I mean, let's talk about when we're doing a homework, what are we looking at? What should we be looking at when we actually meet a photographer?
Sure. Well, my criteria for clients to determine whether or not the photographer is great for them is price. Do they fit in or around or close to your price point? Quality of work. Are they a full-time professional photographer that's fully licensed and has a small business? Are they just doing this part-time, and did you find them on Craigslist? So performance is very good. And then third, what's super important for me is chemistry. You might fall in love with a photographer's work, but if they're an absolute diva, you don't want to be with a diva for 8 hours on your special day. I encourage all of my clients to meet at least 2 or 3 photographers to make sure that chemistry is great, the budget and price is great,
and the value's there.
And then the value's there, that they're proven time and time again that they can turn out amazing photos at every wedding.
I think it's also really important, especially along the lines of booking a photographer, really understanding that you were spending your full wedding day with them. They're usually there when you were getting dressed, straight through till, those last shots of the evening. So the chemistry, I think, is really, really important because that affects your experience on your wedding day. And also sharing with your photographer the experience that you want. And can they deliver that? I think if this is a photographer, photographer A, their shooting style is aggressive and very posy and very manipulating situations and creating scenes, as I would say, that might not be for that couple. Whereas another couple might say, I'm kind of nervous around cameras. I don't want to be stressed out about this. I don't want to feel like I'm on MTV. I don't want the paparazzi in my face. I'm looking for an experience where it's more candid. So I think the chemistry is a really key takeaway here.
Great.
Very much so.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
And there's about 3 types of clients that I identify for wedding photography. There's the clients that have done their research and they've got their vision board on Pinterest and they've got several poses and photographs that they want, and they have a laundry list of photos that these are the ones that I want to create. There are clients that they have never hired a professional photographer before and they're clueless on how to pose, what positions to get into, and they need a little bit of hand-holding, and they need a little direction as far as how to pose. And then there's couples that are somewhere in the middle, They're okay in front of the camera, they're not shy, they've got a few ideas for posing, but they at least want to make the romantic photos something that the photographer does for them rather than them doing all the work and finding their own poses.
Yeah. I think too, and I would caution couples when it comes to creating the Pinterest list and the Pinterest photos. If you are selecting a photographer that you're really comfortable with, you won't need that list. You really love their work, you'll have that trust in them, and you'll have that chemistry that it will flow, more so than handing them 35 images that you've printed out from Pinterest. There's nothing wrong with a vision board, but don't tie your professional photographer into that. You're hiring them not only for their skill and technical knowledge, but also for their creativity. and there's something about that creativity that you like, and the way they treat those images through post-production and into prints and albums that you enjoy. And so you have to give them that space to be able to deliver that. You can't control it. And same thing goes for video, you know. It really, you have to give that space and trust them. So.
Yeah, to your point, I tell all my clients, it's okay to have your vision board. It's okay to have an idea of the types of photos that you want. But rather than giving me a shot list to recreate another photographer's work, maybe give me 3 to 5 must-have photographs and trust your photographer to get the rest of the photos for you. It's a great starting point or a roadmap as to the style of photography you like. And if your photographer is professionally trained, he'll understand what you're looking for and he'll get you those romantic shots that you need.
How important when booking the photographer is it also to discuss the after the wedding, how prints are going to be handled, how albums are going to be handled? Is it something that couples should be considering while they're booking, that, hey, what am I going to do with these photos, or are they going to stay locked in a hard drive?
Yeah, very good question. I find that the majority of the clients who don't choose a package with a wedding album, they stay on a flash drive indefinitely. Very few photos are ever posted. They might end up on their phone, but there's no prints on the wall. There's no album to share with anyone. And although a wedding album looks like it might be a lot to spend up front, it's a tangible item that you can keep with, you can show to your family members. It's an heirloom piece that you can pass on for generation to generation. And a trained photographer that can create a wedding album design for you effortlessly, why not? Jump into it. They'll start the wedding album for you. All you have to do is just do a few modifications.
Yeah. Does it change when you're shooting? Do you always shoot in the preparation that there will be an album, whether there's an album booked or not, or does it change how you shoot knowing that?
It changes slightly. If I know that I have a client who either A, purchased a wedding album in advance, or B, might consider a wedding album, I'll spend a little bit more time taking a lot of detail shots. And I want to make sure that I incorporate all of the pieces that they've brought together, whether it's the flowers, it's the table linens, it's the streamers, or what have you. Those are great accent pieces in the back of wedding albums.
Right.
So if I know ahead of time that they want it or they're gonna want it, I tend to shoot a little bit differently. And I kind of lay out inside my head, like what a spread would look at as I'm posing my clients in different areas. So yeah, long story short, yeah, kinda.
I mean, it changes the delivery of what you have to deliver upon. So.
Correct.
I get curious about, do you ever get asked about equipment? Should couples be asking about, what are you shooting on? Does it matter? What do you say to that?
Well, it's not important the type of equipment that they have, because I don't know who said this 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. The best camera to have is the one that's in your hand. But it is important to know or ask your photographers, what's your backup plan if your camera breaks? What happens if you break your arm? Who's coming to, take photographs for me? Contingency plans are very important, and I go over that with my clients to begin with. I plan to be at every single wedding, but if something were to happen, I have a backup plan for my clients.
Right.
With every wedding that I photograph, I've got 2 cameras. If one dies, bam, I got another one. And if that camera dies, my assistant has 2 cameras, so we're still good. So worst case scenario, if 3 cameras break, we're still all right. We're doing good.
I like that. You checked all the boxes for covering the bases.
Yeah.
Second shooters. Let's talk about second shooters. Let's identify what that really means.
Sure.
And how that impacts the coverage of a day.
Okay. So second shooting. There are 2 types of second shooters, and it depends on the type of photographer that you choose. A second shooter for one photographer can be someone that they're training. It could be an intern that's not getting paid, that's just looking for experience. It could be a person who's holding bags for the most part or modifying lights. Or it could be a person like the second shooters that I hire. They're professional photographers that are trained in the craft of wedding photography that have their own business. They just assist me on weddings to provide dual coverage, twice as many photos, and a completely different eye of photography that's unique and different from mine. And the benefit, if you hire me as a wedding photographer, you're getting 2 professional photographers that give you different stories on the same day. And I'm still in charge of editing all the photos and bringing them back and making them look like they're a cohesive story. But ask your photographers, is your second photographer an intern? Is he paid? How much experience does he have? Is he
or she?
He or she, yep. Or she has. Do they have their own website I could take a look at? And that's super important.
to really understand what's going to be delivered in the images. Okay.
Now, the benefit of having a second photographer, which is the second part of your question,
Yeah.
is if getting ready photos are important for you, why not have someone tell the story of a bride with one photographer or groom, and then have another photographer tell the story of a groom or a bride from another side?
Yeah.
During the ceremony, you get different vantage points as they're saying their vows. During the formal photos with the family members, a second shooter can do the cocktail hour, meet and mingle with all the other guests who are there, which is super important. You won't see those photos until you get them back. You won't know what's going to happen because the bride and groom, or the groom and groom, or bride and bride, they're going to be with family members with their formal photos. So it's a great place to utilize another photographer for a different portion of the wedding.
I think it's the closest thing we have to multiplying ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm a big supporting fan of second shooters. I think I think the story is always told not just in the actions, but in the reactions. And there's this classic moment as a couple's, as you enter walking down the aisle, and your fiance is at the end of the aisle. That can only be captured. Those two reactions that happen at the exact same moment can only be captured when you have a second shooter on the photo or the video side. There's just, you can't run around and get that moment again. It just happens like that.
And you can't recreate it. That moment, that split second's already happened.
Yeah. It's kind of like saying, let's do a first look again.
Right?
Pretend you didn't, just erase it. We need like the Men in Black.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Good questions, girl.
Yeah. Well, I
Thank
really
you.
want to make sure we bring solid information to our couples out there and our toasting tribe that will guide them and support them and celebrate them and make sure they have awesome wedding days and find awesome professional vendors. Now let's talk about professional vendors. What makes up a professional vendor? We touched a little bit on it. I mean, what should they be asking for on the business side of things?
Sure. Well,
like contracts, any of that stuff?
Yeah. First of all, are they a full-time photographer? That's super important. If this is a person that's an engineer and they're working 50 hours a week and they're just supplementing their income as a part-time photographer, they may be great and fantastic, but if you want someone who's truly skilled in the craft of capturing stories through pictures or through video, they really need to be 100% vested into that craft.
And it's also just the amount of practice and shooting time they're taking. A photographer, any of the professionals that are out there that are doing this, they are multiple weddings a year, 20 to 40, depending on what they're, even sometimes if it's venues or if it's, cakes and it's, 300. But I think that there's something to be said when someone is taking this on full time that they are constantly learning, they are constantly improving and constantly practicing their craft.
Absolutely true. As you're vetting your photographer, another question to ask them, have you ever photographed at my venue before?
Yes.
So.
And can I see that?
Yeah, and can I see it? I've been photographing for almost 20 years now, and there are still venues that elude me that I've never shot at. But that doesn't mean that I can't do a great job at a venue. So to put clients at ease, if I haven't shot at a venue, I'm happy to go with them, to walk the grounds with them, to give them some inspiration on the day of their wedding, to ease, their concerns. A trained photographer can shoot in any area, at any time of the day, and in any location. If you like the style of photography, if the images talk to you, it doesn't really matter where your venue is at. But it's a very good question to ask.
Can you break down this, I'm a natural light photographer?
Oh, yeah.
What does that really mean?
Well, it's different for different people.
Okay.
So early on in my photography, I was a natural light photographer, which basically meant I don't know how to use a flash.
I think it sounds so professional, though.
I didn't know how to use a flash or manipulate light to get the images that I wanted. And so it's a great go-to by saying I'm a natural light photographer, which means whatever light's available, the camera's going to catch it.
Okay.
Now fast forward, almost 20 years later, I don't care. I can do strobe, I can do speed lights, I can do reflectors, I can do natural light. I've worked in places where it's a cave and you've got to make it look like $1 million. A natural light photographer is someone that just uses the available light, which is very limiting.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a night wedding. If you have a natural light photographer at night, game over. You're not going to get great photos.
They'll be very grainy.
Yeah. That's it. Very grainy.
Yeah.
Non-usable.
Non-usable. Okay. So the question to ask then is, are you comfortable using flash equipment? Would that
That's
be?
a very good question, yeah.
Yeah. I think couples, we want you to know what to ask. So ask the technical questions. And does it matter if they're shooting Nikon or Canon?
No. Or Sony?
Or Sony?
No,
No.
not really.
No.
Do you like their images? Do they speak to you? That's
Yeah.
most important.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to thank you so much for coming in and sharing all this real information about what this process is like, or process, depending where you're from, to get the photographer that you are going to blend with and have chemistry with, that you like their work, and really understand all the options and what goes into making that decision, because it's, once the wedding's happening and your team is there, then that's it. So we want you to find those vendors that click with you, that have the products and have the outcome that you're looking for and the experience that you're looking for. So we toast you, and thanks for joining us on this spotlight. And a link will pop out about where to learn more about this fabulous photographer, David England. And we look forward to seeing you on another spotlight and on Toasting the Top 10. Take care.
Cheers.